For some background, I, 45 female, am an immigrant. For personal reasons, me and my 3 kids, 12 male, 10 male, 8 female, decided to move to the UK. While I was living there, I was lucky enough to obtain an excellent and well-paying job that has given me the opportunity to not only provide for me and my kids, but for my whole family back home as well. In other words, I live rather comfortably. It was just the 4 of us for the first couple of years, until my youngest sister, 21 female, Zoe, decided to move to the UK for university. Since I was her only relative here, we decided it would be best if she moved in with me so she could focus on her education. She has not paid for anything since she got here. I didn't make her pay rent or even groceries. I gave her a weekly allowance since she doesn't have a job. I pay for a majority of her schooling. The rest are paid for by my parents. I had even given her my old car, which I still pay gas for, so she wouldn't need to commute. Our parents do send her some money for other expenses besides university, but for the most part, I paid for everything. Now, our fight happened a few weeks ago, so I might have forgotten some details. I had a serious emergency at work and needed to leave ASAP. I would usually call my babysitter, but she wasn't available for the day, so I had no choice but to turn to Zoe. I begged her to watch them for at least 2 hours, but she declined, saying she didn't want to waste her weekend watching my kids. I was honestly frustrated but was going to let it go, until she said she'd babysit if I paid her. I couldn't stop myself from laughing at her face. I told her that she was selfish for asking me for more money after everything I've done for her, and that she was a witch for weaponizing my situation. She told me that I was being immature, and that she had no obligation to help me. We got into a huge screaming match after that. It was so bad that it lasted for 2 days until I had enough and kicked her out. She is now living with a friend, and I am now providing financial aid for university only. We no longer have contact. I feel completely disrespected and used by her actions. Most of my family is on my side, except my dad and older sister, though they don't agree with what she did. They think I'm overreacting by kicking her out. My sister also thinks that since I'm rich, it wouldn't have affected me if I just paid her, which is true, and that I'm letting my pride ruin my relationship with my sister. So, am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole. She was freeloading heavily, and the only thing you asked of her was to watch your kids for 2 hours once, and she couldn't be bothered because she didn't want to waste her weekend watching your kids. And then she says she'll do it if you pay her. You did right to kick her out. She was extremely ungrateful and completely took your hospitality for granted. She's the a-hole, not you. Not the a-hole. Someone who takes everything from you with no gratitude, then refuses to help in an emergency, is a total entitled a-hole. Your kids aren't even that young. Babysitting for a couple hours shouldn't be a huge burden. In fact, you could easily have made it a requirement of her living with you rent-free. She doesn't deserve your support. Not the a-hole. Why are you continuing to pay for her education? This is what happens when somebody is spoiled beyond belief. They become entitled, self-centered a-holes. Your sister said she has no obligation. Well, neither do you, and she needs to know that. I, 25 female, have an average-paying job, doing body piercing, so earn enough to live off. My friend, Lottie, 24 female, who I had been friends with since I was little, did not come from a financially fortunate family and has no job. Extra info. No disabilities, mental disorders, or anything at all to stop her working. Plus, she has a public transport pass. So ever since I got a job, 16 years old, I supported her financially, treating her to meals and trying to help her avoid takeaways from her well-being. I even paid clothes for her when she was 18. I paid for 1/4 of her apartment rent and hair salon appointments. Keep in mind, she is on government benefits. This continued, which is absolutely fine, and she always told me she liked the unemployed life as the reason she didn't work. All was okay until I officially started making more money. 21 years old. I began treating her to more designer clothes and shoes, but nothing like Gucci or Chanel, as a treat for being a good friend. She began to meet a few friends, whom of which never knew her financial situation, I presume, and would only wear her best designer clothes around them, and high heels plus jewelry. I was happy she was wearing them confidently. She started to ask to bring her friends over to my house a lot. I do not know these people, met a few times but not introduced properly. And I was okay with that as I know she was a bit insecure, until it became every single week. One night, she asked to throw a quiet casual gathering at my house while I was at my boyfriend's, which I was entirely fine with. Well, what do I come back to? Beer bottles everywhere, my stuff thrown about the place, my cats scared, my clothes ripped, and multiple of my practice piercing ears ripped. There were even used tampons in the bathroom floor, and vomit was everywhere. I collected my cats and briefly went to my bedroom, which thank goodness had a lock, whilst waiting for everyone to leave. I heard Lottie and her friend talk. Lottie was talking about how she was grateful that her friends came to her house, and that Lottie was making £60,000 a year. She said something along the lines of, "Yes, if you ever need any designer, let me know and I'll buy you some." And that's how I found out all the designer clothes she didn't wear that I bought her were given to her friends. All have jobs. So when everyone left, I was furious. I stormed at her and shouted, "Give me my stuff back and get a effing job. I will not be supplying for you at all, and I want my stuff back. You're an adult and grown up enough to stop acting like I'm your mummy." She refused to give me my stuff back, so I told her if she didn't give me my stuff back, I would tell her friends about it all. So she obliged, and started acting the victim by saying, "But I don't want to work." So I told her to get out, and she did. I spent 3 hours cleaning my place, and 2 weeks later, I'm still friends with her but getting calls from her begging to have money. Everyone in my life thinks I'm an a-hole for this. Update. We aren't friends anymore. Not the a-hole, but girl, if you can go to therapy, because I think it will help you unpack why you let this woman ride your back for so long. What the duck did I just read? Everyone sucks here. She's the a-hole for obviously taking advantage of you for years. You're the a-hole for allowing it. You enabled her. Not the a-hole. She's a lifelong mooch and not your friend. You have no responsibility for her life and financial situation. You never did. Of course she likes the unemployed life and doesn't want to work. She's getting a free ride off the government and your hard work. I will say you kind of set yourself up for this by feeding into her mooching behavior since childhood. But you're both adults now, and able-bodied adults have to work whether we want to or not. That's just life. You really would be doing yourself a favor to cut her, and anyone else who doesn't see what an ungrateful leech she is, out of your life, and find better friends who truly appreciate when you decide to treat them, and don't just constantly have their palms out for your money. Haha. My mom and I do not have a good relationship. We used to be close, but she always wanted me to be perfect. She liked to control every aspect of my life, especially my love life. She introduced me to my ex-girlfriend, Kim, and pushed us together. Kim and I dated for a few years and had a child together, which I now have primary custody over. Though my mom wanted our relationship to be perfect, it was far from it. The years I spent with Kim was the worst years of my life, and I'm much happier without her. My mom thought Kim was the perfect girl for me. She was so upset when we broke up and grew angrier when I got together with my wife, Rosa. Rosa is an amazing woman, but my mom refuses to get to know her because she's not Kim. I did not invite my mom to the wedding, and I do not speak to her often. About a week and a half ago, Rosa and I went to dinner at this fancy restaurant. The dinner was supposed to be a nice evening away from everything. In the middle of our date, my mom and Kim come up to us. It was awkward, but I assumed that they would say hello and then leave. My mom and Kim started to chat up Rosa. It was simple questions at first like, "How is work?" or "How is your family?" But even with those questions, I could tell that they weren't really listening. Their questions turned into passive-aggressive comments. My mom was saying, "You look so pretty, dressed like you were single. She's not dressed appropriately for a married woman." Or, "It must have taken you hours to look half-decent." I thought it was mean for no reason. Rosa wasn't offended but rather taken aback with how they were acting. She was, rather politely, asking them to leave us alone, but they were not understanding. My mom told Rosa that she couldn't leave us alone because, as a woman, she knew that Rosa needed protection, seeing as she was dressed like a hooker. Kim laughed and agreed with my mom. I was frustrated. They had interrupted us, only to be rude and insult my wife. In frustration, I told them to get the duck out of my face and to never contact me ever again. They left, cursing me out under their breath. We had tried to enjoy the rest of our night, but my mom and Kim had dampened our celebrations. My mom and Kim are still mad at me and want me to apologize. Rosa does not want me to do anything I don't want to, but thinks that this may affect Kim and I's co-parenting situation. Not the a-hole. Good for you for standing up and protecting your wife. I don't think you owe anyone an apology. I think they owe both of you an apology. However, I would try not to escalate the situation since there is a child involved, as your ex could make it very hard on you. Not the a-hole. You owe no apologies, and while Kim is undeniably the mother of your child, I'm pretty sure that that kind of stalking would affect the co-parenting thing, and not in her favor. Also, tell your mom that if she likes Kim so much, why doesn't she marry her? Solves everyone's problems. Not the a-hole. Rosa might be right about pending issues. I strongly recommend keeping notes about everything and recording all calls between you or Rosa and your mom or Kim. In the future, ask the waitstaff or manager to get them away from you. My son was born on my mom's birthday, and I knew from day one it was going to turn into an ugly crap show. My wife felt strongly that our son should not have to share his birthday, and that children come first. I agreed that I would not be prioritizing my mom over my son on his birthday. But without my consent, my wife told my mom that, in a rather aggressive fashion. And my mom said she didn't care, but we better not guilt her for not being available on that day. This has led to a Cold War filled with silent judgment. For his first birthday, my mom did make a brief appearance, but that was it. He is now 6, and every year I feel like everyone hates everyone. My wife makes snarky comments about my mom for celebrating on the day and/or the following Saturday. My sister and her fiancé are cold to me. Last year, there was a blow-up because my mom's husband wanted a logical explanation as to why I couldn't hang out with them when my son was sleeping. I couldn't really rationalize it, so he called me a bunch of names and hung up on me. It is almost their shared birthday, but this one is a big one for my mom, 50, and I really want to be there. I talked to my mom and asked if she would consider moving the date so that I could be there. She told me I was rude, and who even asks that? I explained that my son has to come first, and he is a kid, so it is important that he feels special. My mom said he is my kid, that is my responsibility, and of course she isn't moving her party. I did get a tiny bit emotional about how much I miss her, and I never see her due to the bad blood with my wife. My mom said I was guilt-tripping her, and her birthday isn't about me. She left in a bad mood, and now everyone is furious with me. I've been called sexist. They think I think she should put the kid first because that's what women do. I never said that. Selfish, egomaniac, whipped. I did not think she would take the conversation this badly. Yes, the a-hole. Impossible to know exactly how this started, but from your wording, it sounds like your wife caused all of this because she wanted your child's birthday to be only his. It's not. No birthdays are only one person's day. I am shocked you all didn't think it was awesome and just share the ducking day. What is wrong with you all? Why are you making this a problem? It could have been a fun day for everyone, or a fun 2 days over a couple of weeks, but you and your wife turned it into a childish contest. Yes, the a-hole. Don't be surprised when people cut you off. Why should they be flexible when you are myopically focused on some ridiculous power play? I, 23 female, told my sister, 26 female, that it was not my fault she is still poor. My sister and I have always had a rocky relationship. I love her and I know she loves me, but we have always gone about things differently. When she was 17, she dropped out of high school, has not gotten her GED or finished. She thought she was going to marry the guy who told her not to worry about money. They split up, and she found a minimum wage job and moved into a new apartment. She has since then gotten married to someone who has a child from a previous relationship. I took a different path. I finished high school and received my bachelor's degree. In college, I met my husband who is now an engineer. Together we make a sizable income that allows us to be more comfortable. We have only begun in our careers, but from the day my husband announced him finding his well-paying job, it has only gotten worse. One day, we are celebrating my brother's birthday, and my family asks my husband how his job is. He mentions some new things he is learning, tells them about his promotion. My family congratulated him, and we then announced that I had too found a job as a teacher at an elementary school. Once again, my parents and brother are telling us good job, and saying how proud they are of us. My sister begins to make a face, and I ask her what's wrong. She said that I'm always getting attention, and it annoys her. I say I am sorry, and go about the evening without mentioning anything again. My parents say they are so happy to have one of their kids graduate as a first-generation college student. My sister rolls her eyes, and says she could study something as easy as education too. I simply say, I think you definitely could. I meant it too. I think she is smart, capable, and know she is a determined person. Later that evening, my parents began asking about paying off student loans or if we will buy a house first. During this, my sister has an outburst and said, "This happens every time you are here. They only want to hear about you. The only reason you can think about houses anyways is because you live off your husband's money." I live an hour and a half away from my family. She lives 6 minutes from mom. To me, it felt like she always had the attention. She gave the first grandkid. They have frequent dinners together. It was enough to set me off. Without thinking, I say, I do not get all the attention. You just can't stand when someone else is doing better than you. It is not my fault I chose education, and you chose to be poor. I felt guilty as soon as I said it, but I have also been tired of her mentioning how I act better than her because I have a degree and make more money when I have never done so or said it. Am I actually the a-hole here? Everyone sucks here. No one chooses to be poor. Your sister made a bad decision when she was a teen, and she's dealing with the consequences. You were hitting below the belt, and I think you know it. On the flip side, it sounds like your sister's mad that she's dealing with the consequences of her actions and taking a bit of that frustration and jealousy out on you, probably because to her, your life looks incredibly cushy and out of reach. Harsh, but not unfair. She's bitter about her poor life choices and wants a patsy to pin the blame on, not the a-hole. Not the a-hole. Your sister's digging at you because she's jealous. She can still get her GED and get a college degree if she wants, which it seems she might want to do. She should figure that out and stop lashing out.